I'm joined on the UK Drum Show official podcast by the legend that is Gabor Dornyei.
Yay.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Very good.
Thank you so much for coming on and for welcoming me into this drum haven.
Yeah.
It's amazing to have you here. For those that don't know, Gabor is one of the most in-demand session drummers, educators and clinicians of your generation. You've emerged from Europe over sort of recent years. You've played on over 100 albums, including several gold and platinum selling albums, and also soundtracks for Disney, which is super cool. You're a highly qualified educator, and you are going to be playing the main stage of the UK Drum Show 2025 on Sunday, the 19th of October. But my first question, how much is this drum kit worth?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks ever so much for coming over. Thanks for seeing me. Thanks for visiting me at Gabby Road Studio. Gabby Road.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have a road sign there. Yes. Gabby Road Studio. So well, the drum kit. It's the amazing Sonor signature drum kit that I've been collecting since 1995. Wow. So it's literally 30 years this year to the date. So it would be very difficult to put a price tag next to it. But,
right. But you could.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been a long collection, and basically, you know, as I started out, I have like 0% chance to have a drum kit like this. Mm-hmm. And over the years, you know, one by one, as a proper maniac collector, I bought, you know, a small set first, just a kick and two toms, and then, you know, I did like huge efforts, you know, like smuggling through shells from the old Yugoslavia and things like that. So that every shell and every piece has a history.
Wow.
And yeah, the audience members can see some footage of this on the UK Drum Show socials on Instagram and also on the YouTube channel. So some shells came from Scandinavia, the other ones I bought from Italy, some shells from Yugoslavia, as I said, back in the day, and some shells I bought in, you know, Central Europe, Budapest, some shells from Germany. So it's been from all over the place, and the hardest thing is to match the veneer. Because obviously, you know, it's just natural wood.
Yes.
So all the shells look slightly different, but I got pretty lucky over the years, and the whole thing looks like an identical set.
Yes, you're like a Hungarian Terry Bozzio.
Yes, we can say. I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, you should.
Massive. Oh, Terry is a hugely influential, fantastic artist, and I used to watch him a lot.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, he's a great drummer. But we've come here to talk about you. Why did you become a drummer? Can you remember your first memory of the drums and the moment where the sticks went into your hands for the first time? Take us back.
Yeah, it was a very interesting start because I have a very highly educated family with no musicians in it at all. Mm-hmm. My dad was a lawyer, my mom's a finance director, my sister is a market researcher. So everybody, and loads of, you know, lawyers and educators, teachers there in our family, in the extended family, and nobody played any music. So it was like I was the black sheep, literally, to start playing the drums, and it was just a natural reaction from me listening to music, and I just started tapping the beat. I felt like I feel the rhythm, I can play along to this. And me and my sister were huge rockers in our childhood, so you know, to Metallica, to all the metal bands and rock bands, you know, I just started playing the sofa. Yeah. So there was literally no drums, no support from my family, in the sense that it wasn't like, oh, you're so talented, let me buy your drum kit. It wasn't like that at all. And then basically I just started playing like all day and all night at home, and I just drove my mum nuts. So basically she said, if you want to do it like so seriously and you're dedicated, then let's go and learn it properly.
Yes.
So she took me to the local primary music school, where they didn't take me because they didn't have any space. So, and the teacher said, who was later become my great first teacher, he said, if the kid is still playing, come back next year, and then I'll make sure to have a space. Yes. So first, I'm not saying that we were sacked or not taken on board, that it was already sold out. We were sacked sort of during the school year, so there was no more availability, no more slots. So, and obviously I haven't stopped, and I went back next year, and the rest is history.
Wow. So you've been, by your own admission, you've been collecting these drums for 3 decades since 1995. We've obviously had a very long history with drums. What is it in particular about the bigger drum kits that get you going? Because a lot of drummers, for example, they might play, a large kit would be considered 2 kick drums and maybe 4 or 5 toms, but you've got here 11 toms, you've got 3 kick drums, I can see 3 snares over here, and an absolute array of cymbals. What is it the aesthetics? Is it the sounds? What is it?
Well, it's both. I mean, I really like, obviously, the look of this kit, and when I was a child, sort of coming up, we had very humble beginnings, so I had zero chance. So I'm sort of fulfilling my dreams now, in a sense, and I started collecting these drums, 30 years ago. But really, I think it's 2 things, really, the most importantly. One is a huge influence of Billy Cobham and Terry Bozzio, obviously, and the melodic drumming. So Terry Bozzio even had a release called the ostinato, melodic drumming and the ostinato. Yes. So he played ostinatos on his feet and played melodies over that on the toms. And also probably the fact that I'm, unfortunately, I never really have the time to practice the piano, so I don't play a melodic instrument massively on a really high level, and I think I'm compensating that on the toms. So when you hear my solos or like solo or rhythmic ideas, you always hear a melody. So I want to play the melody on the toms. So the tuning is very important of the drums. So it's not for the look, or definitely not because I enjoy carrying them, because they're really heavy. It's all musical reason. And when I play a kit like that, I feel more balanced. When I see Billy Cobham play and everything goes to the right and the left, and you almost can't tell which one is his stronger hand. The ambidextrous playing is very close to my heart. If there was one thing I would change in my drumming, or if I could restart my drumming, I would only ever play open-handed. I wouldn't do this. 100%, yeah. Because this one is coming from an old habit, when people, sort of the military days, when people played on the back of the horse with a massive snare drum in front of them because they needed the volume, and because the hoop of the snare was up here, they couldn't play the match grip because they were dislocating the shoulders in 5 minutes. So they started using the traditional grip, and in the 1920s, by the way, there's nothing against the traditional grip. I love playing the traditional grip, both right hand and left hand. But what I'm saying is, in the 1920s, when they added the hi-hat pedal to the drum kit, everybody was still playing traditional grip, and instead of straightening out the grip and playing it with the left hand where the hi-hat is, they kept the traditional grip and put the right hand above because it was easier. 100 years later, we still follow that crazy habit. There's no other instrument that would do that. The bass player, piano player, nobody crosses their arms, only the drummers. And I don't like that position when you the left hand is a slave, and you're locked down in that position.
Yes, that is. I hadn't ever thought about that before. It seems so natural to just go. That's what. Tell
you what. Tell me one example you played your right cymbal with the left hand. You never do that because it's in the wrong place. It's just, and we do the same thing with the high. We just made it work. We just got used to it.
I suppose unless you're doing like a little fill.
But in a long term or long time for bars or a whole number, you would never do this.
Well, you're a highly educated drummer and clinician and educator. What are you going to be bringing to the stage of the UK Drum Show in October at the ACC Liverpool? What are you going to be bringing to the stage that other drummers are not going to be doing? Will you, for example, be making your session interactive? Will you be playing some things from the past that you haven't done in a long time? What can we expect?
I always love making my sessions interactive because I think it's these festivals. It's a double-edged sword because it can be something like depressing for the audience if they feel if the art is just shredding. And they feel like, oh, I'm never going to play like that. I'm never going to be able to play it. So they actually leave like disheartened rather than inspired. So what I like to do is to get the audience involved and give them some exercises that we can play together. Or this is what the left foot's doing, this is what the right foot's doing, this is what the right hand, this is what the left hand.
Okay.
So I sort of get them involved and play with me a little bit. You know, you can't teach them what you learned in the last 35 years, obviously, in an hour or 45-minute set. It's not like that. But you can give them something to practice, something to think about, or maybe the open-handed concept or the independence. Of course, as we mentioned before, you know, my solos and shows are always melodic. So melody is very, very important to me. And the sound of these amazing Sonor kits obviously really helps me to express myself. And I'm going to have my new kit by then.
Wow.
So I'm extremely excited.
Tell us about that. Tell us about
it. It's being made. It's probably ready already. I haven't received it yet, but it's a wonderful Sonor SQ2 in African marble.
Nice.
African marble finish, a 22-inch bass drum, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18 toms, a 7-inch main snare, 7x14, and then a 12x6 piccolo snare.
Nice.
So the drum kit's going to be incredible, and obviously I'm always using a lot of percussion in my playing. Foot cowbell, cable hi-hat, the jam blocks from Tycoon Percussion. I have a signature pack with them, which I very, very intensively include in my performances and musical playing. So those are important, and so there will be a lot of independence, soloing. I'm preparing some new songs as well, so there'll be new music that people probably haven't heard before. There's a couple of releases coming out at the moment. I'm recording on a new album with Steve Alepi, who's #1 rock guitarist in Hungary, and he's releasing a new solo record that features Frank Gambale.
Oh, okay, cool.
And Gary Husband.
Okay.
Randy Brecker on trumpet, and I'm going to have a big drum feature on that.
Wow,
And
that's cool.
I'm planning to play that song. So there will be whole brand new music.
I mean, they're all icons.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
And also I'm going to have the classic tunes that I recorded on Drumeo in Vancouver, and the ones I played on Drum Channel in LA. So there's going to be some new stuff and old stuff, so it's going to be a very good mixture.
That's exciting, and it's a 45-minute set to inspire. And I think the UK drum show, Europe drum show, I don't think I've seen one person walk away from either of these events and not feel inspired. And I think the drumming community is so special because I'm speaking from a biased perspective, but I love how drummers love to share.
Yeah.
You know, I look at when I host these events, I look in the audience. People are sharing notes. People are making new friends. People are learning things from one another. There's never any ego. There's never, oh no, you can't look at what I'm writing down, or you can't look at this. Everybody's so open, and I think you've got 45 minutes, and there's going to be people there that would love to ask you so many questions, but it's a short span of time. What would your advice be to an aspiring drummer that would love to follow in the footsteps that you've done, not only, with the rock and the jazz stuff, but also, you've made music for Disney. Like, that's huge. How what would your advice be?
Oh my God, it's such a huge question. Before we get to my advice, I just really want to encourage everybody to come and visit the show, because it's an absolutely fantastic event, and I'm so glad I went. Normally, when it was in London at the Olympia, I went there more often because obviously it's a bit more time consuming to go to Liverpool, but I'm so glad I went. I also played the main stage at the Olympia Conference Centre in 2018, and I'm delighted to be back now, and I would encourage everybody to come and check out the show. The new venue is absolutely fantastic. The ACC Liverpool is amazing. First time I went was last year, and it's literally restarted my whole career.
Wow.
Because since COVID, I felt a little bit down, and a lot of things hasn't started back yet.
Right.
And I went there, and that the whole atmosphere and the vibe just made me forget that COVID ever existed.
Yeah.
And because it was so much positivity, as you said, and also you always learn something. You meet someone just out of that meeting over the weekend, hey, Gavs, long time no see. Yeah. When are you coming over to do a clinic for us? Oh, hey, do a masterclass. Why didn't you do a show? Blah, blah, blah. All that. And I said, oh, yeah, I want to do it. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
And since then, I've done a 15-stop UK tour, which is something that hasn't happened to anybody since COVID. So it was a huge undertaking, but I'm so glad I did. Actually, I still have one more date at the Brighton Drum School on the 27th of April. So this tour has been going on since end of February. I started in Manchester, the Royal Northern College. They had the 32nd edition of Day of Percussion Festival. So that was the first day, and Brighton will be the last one. And I'm just grateful for the organizers of the show. Really, Neil Golding and the great Mike Dolbear. I think they're doing such a phenomenal job putting this on. It must be a huge job, massive undertaking, and getting young and energetic new guys like you on board. So I would recommend to everybody to come and please check it out. Obviously, the highlight of the show will be my set. So
of course.
I'm playing at 11:15 on the Sunday, so the 19th of October, 11:15 on the main stage. But, the lineup is just scary. So absolutely incredible. Gavin Harrison, Todd Zuckerman, Greg Bissonette, Antonio Sanchez. Oh, my God. My only excuse to be rubbish between these guys that I'm so young, they're like 50, 60 years older than me. I'm still a teenager.
Oh, thank you so much for your kind words, and it's super cool of you to recognise how much is going on behind the scenes of UK Drum Show and also Europe Drum Show. But what do you? Your advice, it kind of sounded like, would be for people to get to these shows, to network and to meet new people and make new friends and. Yeah.
Do you know what? It's very interesting. Back to your question. So the second question, I think it should be included in university curriculums. That how the importance of do the networking bit, because it's not a lonely business. You're not like a solo drummer, or sometimes you if you're extremely lucky, you get a solo slot like this at the UK Drum Show, or you do a drum clinic or something. But generally, you are playing as part of a band. So we're not soloists, you have a gig, you play for a band, and all those calls going to come from people that know you, not necessarily someone who never heard of you or you never met. Everybody's always going to call their mates. So I think the importance of showing your face and making your connections is super important.
Yes.
Because you can be the best drummer in the world in your own garage if nobody opens the door on you. And then after a while you start thinking, oh, I've been practicing for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and I'm still not playing anywhere. I can't make a living, I don't have any gigs. So you become frustrated because you haven't shown your talent. You need to have an online presence. You need to have the personal connections. You got to be a good hang, a reliable guy who turns up on time, and all those elements that sort of contribute to become an all-round professional. It can't be overlooked. And 50% of the business is who do you know and how do you behave, how do you communicate. The other 50% is how good you are. So I'm not saying not to practice. Of course, do practice, but don't just practice your drums and wait for the miracle, because it's much better to do your drum practice and build your connections in the business, and that's when you're going to be happy and successful.
Networking is, as you rightly say, and only echoing your point, networking is so important if you want to get on. If you're in a band and maybe one or two of the members know the right people and they're happy to network on the band's behalf, and you want to kind of take a step back and not, I suppose that's okay. But as you say, now social media important, and your online presence, not necessarily about the amount of, I don't think, followers that you've got, but are the right people following you? Are the right people seeing your music or your content that you're putting out? Now, everybody who wants to be a musician, it's almost like this is my shop window. Their social media is their shop window. This is what you can have if you employ me to do something. But amazing advice on networking, not just drumming.
Yeah. I would have 100 more advice, but they're probably going to run. How long you got?
I'm not staying over. Not again. No,
let's go to the pub.
Okay, maybe I will. What lesson have you learnt behind the kit that you have brought to your everyday life? Have you ever been in a situation where maybe you've learnt something about yourself whilst drumming and you've thought, how can I implement that into my day-to-day living?
Ooh. Well, first of all, the coordination and the understanding the basics and understanding the connections between the notes
Mm-hmm.
that really hadn't, like, there was a time when I was practicing very, very slowly and very quietly.
Right.
There was multiple reasons for that. First of all, people told me when I was younger that, oh, we love your playing, but you're playing so loud. We can't play. When I got the, before I relocated to England, I played in the Budapest National Radio Big Band. And they loved my playing. I was invited to play in a band without an audition. But they said, oh, your volume is quite high. So I just realized that, okay, I have to calm down and be able to control my volume more.
Turn it down from 11.
Exactly. To 12. Yeah. I still follow that. No one in a second. No, they haven't. So, so the coordination and understanding the relation between the notes and sort of going back one step before you go two steps forward. If you know what I mean?
Yes.
Taking a step back and really sort of analyzing and realizing what's going on. And that really helped me in life as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention, partially to your previous question, and also when you mentioned the Disney recordings, those were scary sessions because it was like an 80-piece classical orchestra and an 11-piece rock band with two keyboards, guitar, bass, drums, percussion, tuned percussion, everything you can imagine. And the reading, that was the time when the reading came extremely handy. And I was sort of, when my mom took me to the elementary music school, I started out sort of like a semi-classical player.
Of course.
That for years we just did snare drum.
Wow.
Snare drum, rudiments and etudes, reading or single line rhythm. And that sort of set me up for life when you do a session, and like literally when like 100 people recording together live. It was in the Budapest National Radio Big Band and a big studio called the Studio 22nd.
Yeah.
And they don't have the time for you to work out your parts or to even think about what's written there. It's written. Those are the notes, just looking at it and recording, red light.
So sight reading is something
reading.
you would really advocate for aspiring drummers, obviously of any age, any ability.
For multiple reasons. First of all, you will be able to do studio sessions, which are much less now, but all the people who are doing, studio sessions, they're all monster readers, like, Peter Erskine and Vinnie Colaiuta. They read the charts like you read the newspaper, So it's an incredible level. So, and I think the ability to be able to read really set me up for a lot of jobs. Like, for example, when I do shows in the West End, it's completely obvious. It's just simply required that you are a reading player.
Wow.
Also, when I was 19, that was 275 years ago, I was flown out to Miami, and I had a cruise ship contract around the Bahamas for 4 months.
Wow.
And we played a different show every night.
Oh my
That was a 6 o'clock sound check and reading call for the 7 o'clock show.
Wow.
So we went through once, and 7 o'clock the audience came in and we started playing. I was 19 at the time, so I was thrown into the deep water, but I enjoyed it because I first of all, I enjoyed the satisfaction that I can actually read and follow through a chart.
Yes.
Obviously, plus you got really well paid, which helps.
Pay for the drum kit.
Yeah, of course. Partially. And so reading gave me a lot of work.
Amazing.
A lot of work, and obviously a lot of connections, and that moves on to something and leads on to something. So
yes, and obviously having played for Disney, my question surrounding that would be: do you still get like free tickets to Disney World?
No, unfortunately not.
What?
It's long
Are you being ripped
forgotten.
off?
Yeah, it's long forgotten. Yeah.
That's amazing. We are so excited to have you play the main stage of the UK Drum Show in October. Tickets are available. Gabor, thank you so much for inviting me to your home, to this drum haven, as I said a moment ago. And thank you for coming on the UK Drum Show official podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we will see you in October.
Can't wait. Thanks ever so much. Thanks for having me.